So Bill O'Brien was expected to call plays in 2024 for Ohio State. That was going to be the move by Ryan Day when he announced he was stepping down as the primary play caller. That's not happening. Bill O'Brien is taking the job now at Boston College, and Chip Kelly is leaving UCLA to now join a rival team in the Big Ten and only focusing on offense. Here's the crazy part of all of that story. This feels like more so an upgrade for the Buckeyes than what you had with Bill O'Brien. Take nothing away from Bill, and we'll get into that in a moment. But it does feel like if Ohio State is truly serious about contending for a national title in 2024, hiring Kelly is just the cherry on top of it all. Let's go ahead and discuss. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel, people. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of just saying it. Comment. Do you think that Bill O'Brien over Chip Kelly would be an upgrade? Do you think Chip Kelly over Bill O'Brien would be an upgrade? Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, the drunk dude passed out in a Waffle House parking lot, Ohio State fans, Big Ten fans, college football aficionados, everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking college football daily. Continue to follow me on social media, Twitter, X, Instagram, wherever you have social media. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. So let's go back to the very beginning of the entire thing that happened with Bill O'Brien. He's hired from New England to become the next OC at Ohio State. And the reasoning is Ryan Day realizes, yeah, I have to focus more so in on the NIL, the boosters, the funding. I have to do that. I need to take something off of my plate. What was one of the weaker points for the team last year? Offense. So I'm going to hand the reins over to a guy that's been a head coach that has had success with offenses and has had success with quarterbacks. You can look at the entire situation that went on with Bill O'Brien down in Houston, and most people see it as a negative. I view it as incomplete. From a coaching standpoint, the guy is going to go down as one of the best coaches of the 2010s. He's going to go down as one of the best coaches in Houston football history. He got into 4 playoff appearances and 4 division titles. The GM factor, that's why there's only one Bill Belichick, and even he had some struggles near down the stretch. But from a quarterback standpoint, from a development standpoint, he had Christian Hackenberg looking like a potential first-round pick. He led Bryce Young to a Heisman Trophy appearance and also to a national championship. He would have been good, but there was a reason why they say home is where the heart lies. Boston is home to him. He has a son playing for Tufts University baseball. He has a son with a neurological disorder. When Boston has the best care for that type of rare autoimmune disease, and he's a Boston native. So it just made sense at the time. Everything's in Boston. My family's in Boston. I have better care in Boston. Let's just go back to Boston since I want to become a head coach eventually. And Ryan Day can't be that mad about it. He probably saw the writing on the wall and said, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But now Chip Kelly comes in. And this has to be the most unheralded story in all of college football. We've seen as group of 5 head coaches have departed their universities to take coordinator jobs at the Power 4 level. Last season, Sean Lewis left Kent State to become the OC for Colorado. This offseason, you watched as Maurice Winglist and also Kane Womack leave Buffalo and South Alabama to join the staff underneath Kalen DeBoer. But we've never really seen the ability to watch a Power 4 active head coach step down from his command and only focus in on one side of the football. This is the most unheralded thing in college football this offseason. And it is an upgrade. It's a massive upgrade for the Buckeyes. It's also kind of an upgrade for UCLA, in my opinion, because you're kind of in a wash, rinse, repeat recycle that is just not humming at the right time. Westward's a beautiful location, and I think UCLA can be a school with the right funding and resources, a contender in the Big Ten. They absolutely can. They have the ability, especially when you look at what Kelly was able to do. From a coaching standpoint, Kelly is still one of the best play callers. He's one of the best offensive innovators. He just doesn't like the other things that go along with coaching. Dan Mullen fell in this category. From an offensive schematic standpoint, Mullen was still one of the best whenever he was fired by Florida. But he didn't like recruiting. He didn't like the way the game was going. He didn't like the future with NIL. He didn't like the transfer portal. He didn't like to have to re-recruit his players while also preparing for a bowl game. And on top of that, preparing for an early signing period and then later signing period. And some coaches are built to handle that pressure. Other coaches aren't, and that's kind of where Kelly is. But from a winning standpoint, it's very hard to argue with what Kelly was able to do. 8 wins in his last 4 years each season. He had a 9-win season with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a top 25 finish. And now that offense is hitching its wagon alongside Ryan Day, a guy who used to coach underneath Chip Kelly. So the reason why this is such an upgrade is because let's just say it's 3rd and 3, last closing minutes of the game. You have to convert to keep your drive alive. And Ryan Day, who's been the primary play caller, is now having to relinquish the book because if he knows that this is what's best for his team, is now telling Bill, I don't agree with that play call. And they have a fight, and they have a tit for tat, and Bill ends up making the call, and they don't convert. Well, now that leads to animosity, now that leads to hostility, and now that leads to problems internally in the locker room. But with Kelly, it's a guy you worked for. It's a guy whose offense is predicated a little bit like yours. It's a guy who understands the cadences. It's a guy who understands the personnel looks. It's a guy who understands everything that you're trying to implement. So the trust factor is there. It's 3rd and 2. You know that Kelly is going to dial up something that you would dial up. So the trust already leans right back into favor of Ohio State. On top of that, the offense was humming. Go look back at the history of UCLA football. Offensive consistency was their bread and butter before this past year. D'Anton Lynn did wonders with the defense, which is why UCLA was able to hang around in a very, very, very competitive, almost really the best conference of college football, Pac-12 this year. And so you know that now focus is going to be on that. Ryan Day is going to be working the recruiting trail. Brian Hartline's going to be working the recruiting trail. A slew of other coaches are going to be working the recruiting trail. And Kelly's focus, call plays on offense, get the system humming, make sure that we have the right players in the right situation to put up a lot of points. And this was an offense that was averaging 28, 29, 31 points per game with 3-star talents, 2-star talents, a few 4-star talents. That was UCLA out in Westwood. Now you're getting 5 stars. Now you're getting top-tier recruits. Now you're getting players that are already plug-and-play adaptable that should come in and immediately find success. And all your focus is on the offense. You don't have to worry about recruiting. You don't have to worry about the transfer portal. You don't have to worry about re-recruiting. You don't have to shake hands with boosters. You don't have to shake hands with alums. You don't have to worry about NIL collectives. Just call the right place. Get us past this hump of beating Michigan and get us to the college football playoff. And that's Kelly's job. And Kelly can do that. Ohio State has to be the biggest winner of the offseason. I have been on record multiple times believing that Ohio State walks away as the victors of 2024 early on. And this is in a year where their rival not only went undefeated again in the regular season and hoist up their first national title in over 2 decades. And Ohio State's the biggest winner. You just look at the names that were added in via the transfer portal and in a top 5 recruiting class. How are you not salivating at the mouth if you're a Buckeyes fan, realizing that now we're adding in Chip Kelly to this offense? It's unheard of to see you land the number 1 transfer portal player in Caleb Downs, the number 1 transfer portal quarterback in Julian Saying, and the number 1 recruit in the country, Jeremiah Smith, all in the same offseason. Well, Ryan Day did that. Ohio State did that. And Ohio State retained so much talent going into 2024. This is a team that's losing Marvin Harrison Jr., and a few offensive linemen. That's really it. Mike Hall Jr. is probably the only other name. But everyone else, even though you lose Tommy Eichenberg, you have a replacement. Cade Stover, you have a replacement. You still retain Emeka Ibuka. You still retain Denzel Burke. You still retain Jack Sawyer. You still retain everyone else on your defensive line. You still retain Donovan Jackson. You still retain Travion Henderson. And you bring in 2 plug-and-play difference makers and Will Howard, the quarterback from Kansas State, and Quinshon Judkins, the number 1 running back in college football the last 2 years. And this is an offense that knows how to run the football, and offensive personnel that will predicate on running the football. Go look back at UCLA's history, what their rushing attack has been. One of the more dominant units in the Pac-12. And that's coming over to Columbus. That's going to be an MO and a bread and butter for this Buckeyes team. And it's also going to have 2 headline running backs that don't mind splitting carries, which is going to save their legs for the next level. On top of that, you have a quarterback in Will Howard that's going to probably work wonders with Bill O'Brien, just like he would with Chip Kelly. So Brian's gone. Kelly comes in. Look at that. Quick fix. It's hard to say that Ohio State is not walking away one of the biggest winners this entire offseason, which is why expectations are at an all-time high. I had them as the number 1 team going into 2024. I would be hard-pressed to find a team top to bottom, now with Kelly running the offense, that has the identity, the purpose, and the persistence to be able to win a national title and go undefeated, which is why this is a failed season for the Buckeyes if they can't get to the title game. It's why it's a failed season for the Buckeyes if they can't get out of their own way. It's a failed season if they can't get past Michigan. Because when you add in all these pieces, now the question turns to, what else do you need? What else out there do you need to finally get over this hump? Finally get back to being the bells of the Big Ten. finally get back to being the leaders of college football. Because right now, you're playing second fiddle to Michigan. You had an offense coordinator, top tier recruiting class, all the talent retaining, and you still find a way to lose. Ryan Day does not have to worry about message boards calling for his head. He has to worry about boosters actually pulling the trigger. That's why this is such an influential hire. And in my opinion, in a year that you have to find immediate success, a year where expectations are not slowing down, and more importantly, rising by the ranks, you have to trust somebody that you know runs your offense to a T. Kelly can run the offense to a T just like Ryan Day would. And for that reason alone, it's a better grade than I think what you have with Bill O'Brien. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me, is Chip Kelly an upgrade over Bill O'Brien? Tell everybody about this channel in the college football community. Make sure that you also hit the subscribe button down below. We'll see you next time right here on Just Saying It.